It is truly tough to fathom that the American version of The Office wrapped up its run 8 years ago. And in a way, I guess that's because it's never really left, has it? Since then, we've watched, rewatched, and then rewatched again the show over and over. I mean, what else am I going to do? Find something new? No, I'm not scrolling through Netflix for half an hour just to get back to where I started at. Nah, I'm smarter. I've evolved. Of course, rewatching The Office in particular is so satisfying because there are a bunch of details that you just don't see the first time through. Or hell, even the third time through, or the 10th time through. And thanks to the incredibly keen-eyed and dedicated fans over at subreddits like Dunder Mifflin and TV Details, these details are constantly trickling out that we just didn't notice the first time through. So huge shout out to those posters for making lists like this even possible to begin with. So I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and this is The Office 10 more insane details you definitely missed. Number 10. After admiring David Wallace's chair, Dwight quietly gets his own. Few sitcoms have ever demonstrated as much attention to detail as The Office, and that goes right down to the actual furniture used in the show. In the season 3 episode Cocktails, Dwight attends a cocktail party at the house of David Wallace. Of course, Dwight being Dwight, he ultimately takes it upon himself to inspect every inch of Wallace's home. And while on patrol, Dwight makes it clear that he's incredibly fond of a particular rocking chair he finds in a young boy's room, presumably the son of David Wallace. And without drawing any attention to it at all, in the season 4 episode Money, you actually get to look at Dwight's own house, and on the porch, there is an exact replica of this rocking chair. Now, while it is incredibly fun to consider that Dwight actually concocted some kind of espionage to steal this exact chair and put it in his own house, it's probably safe to say that he just went out and bought the exact same one because he couldn't resist after seeing it in David Wallace's home. Number 9. Kevin, an accountant, only wears glasses when playing poker. Of all the things you remember about Kevin, you probably don't remember that he actually has to wear glasses. Or at least when he plays poker anyway. In the series' all-time classic season 2 episode Casino Night, we actually see Kevin playing poker, and for the first time we see him wearing some glasses. Now, this might not seem weird. I mean, after all, it is just one of the characters wearing some glasses after all, and loads of people in the world wear glasses, but there is a key difference, and that's because we never see Kevin wearing these while he's at work. And given that Kevin is an accountant, an extremely detail-oriented job, it suggests that he just doesn't really care about the numbers that he's overlooking, because he can probably not even see half of them. The implication is that he only wears glasses when he's playing poker because he's working with his own money and he actually cares about the outcome. The company's coffers, though, apparently not so much. And just like that, it's even more incredible that Kevin managed to go so long without getting fired. Number 8. Creed says to Andy in Chinese, quote, "Don't mix seahorse with alcohol." In season 7's viewing party, an insecure Andy is convinced by Ryan to sneak into Gabe's room and try some of his Chinese virility supplements. Andy enthusiastically mixes this apparent supplement with his wine and then enthusiastically again chugs it entirely down, not realizing that what he's just drank is actually powdered seahorse. As Andy begins to feel not so good, he approaches Creed and asks him to read what was actually on the label. Creed then responds in Chinese, and both Andy and the audience just kind of assume that he's talking gibberish, and that's the joke. It turns out though that despite his terrible pronunciation, Creed is actually speaking Mandarin. And he's actually reading out the warning, quote, "Don't mix seahorse with alcohol." Yeah, I think it's a bit too late for that one. Number 7. Andy wears short sleeve shirts once Dwight becomes acting manager to mirror his personality. In the late season 7 episode Dwight K. Schrute acting manager, Dwight, as the name suggests, becomes the interim regional manager for Dunder Mifflin. And during the episode, you might notice if you're paying close attention that Andy is uncharacteristically wearing a bland short sleeve shirt. The reason for this? Well, it's actually a callback to the season 3 episode The Merger. There, a newly transferred Andy tells his co-workers that he's going to use a psychological tactic known as personality mirroring. Essentially, his idea is that this, along with a few other techniques, will allow him to become the number 2 at this branch. His exact quote sounds something like this: "I'll be the number 2 guy here in Scranton in 6 weeks. How? Name repetition, personality mirroring, and never breaking off a handshake." Obviously, dressing like Dwight is an attempt to win his favor, as after all, people are drawn to other people that they can see parts of themselves in. Number 6. Dunder Mifflin is located at 1725 Slough Avenue in reference to the original UK series. Now he's a brilliantly sneaky little Easter egg of sorts that's actually been in the show a few times, yet has been subtle enough that a bunch of hardcore fans failed to pick up on it at all. In the season 6 episode Whistleblower, Dwight is talking to an estate agent. Here he mentions that Dunder Mifflin's Scranton office is actually located at 1725 Slough Avenue. Now this is a nod to the original UK series, as that is actually set in the British town of Slough. Again though, it's kind of easy to miss what Dwight's saying unless you have the subtitles on. But as I mentioned before, the address has shown up a few times in the show, and it's not always just spoken out loud. For instance, take the season 4 premiere Fun Run. Here, Michael presents a giant check to Science for $340, and on that check it actually has the exact address of the Scranton branch. Given the few direct references to the UK version of the show outside of season 1, this is a pretty great nod. Number 5. In The Target, Creed wears sweatpants with his jacket and tie. Nobody in the office is as hilariously, dementedly unhinged as Creed. While he doesn't much care to hide his general lack of interest in his own job, he nevertheless managed to conceal it in plain sight. In season 9's The Target, if you keep a close eye on Creed's costume, you'll notice that he isn't wearing his regular professional work slacks. He's actually just wearing sweatpants for pretty much the whole episode. Now it is admittedly easily missed due to the way he's standing and the fact that the pull string on the pants are actually close to invisible if you've got your brightness turned up on your TV, which, guilty. But if you look again, it's clear that he's managed to throw on a shirt, a tie, and a jacket, but then completely give it up once he got to his downstairs area. Still, with the way office dynamics have changed around the world over the past year, maybe Creed was ahead of his time. I mean, I'm wearing sweatpants right now. Number 4. Jim signs Meredith's cast as John Krasinski. In season 4's launch party, Meredith returns to the office with a pelvic cast because she's been hit with a car by Michael. Consequently, as you are wont to do, she gets everyone in the office to sign this cast, but as you are not wont to do, she gets Jim to awkwardly sign right on the crotch. Jim does so, but if you look closely, you'll actually notice that he doesn't sign the cast as Jim Halpert. He actually signs it as the actor's name, John Krasinski. Though Krasinski's signature is a little bit sketchy and it's not entirely legible, the dead giveaway is the K at the start of the second name and the fact that he dots 2 I's when he's writing the surname. Obviously, Halpert doesn't have any letters in it that require these dots, so it seems pretty clear that the dots correspond with the 2 I's in Krasinski. I bet whoever discovered this one for the first time felt like Sherlock in his mind palace or something. Whether it was an intentional Easter egg on the actor's part or whether he just completely forgot when it came time to actually do the signing or not, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's a very, very good reference. At least I think so. Number 3. Dunder Mifflin has a certificate for cutting down 1 million trees. Enter any office around the world and you'll find a whole bunch of back-patting gumph plastered around the walls of that office. You know, those mission statements, those motivational posters, those certificates that most of the office haven't even glanced at more than once despite being there like 5 years or something. Well, the set dressers working on the office managed to take this fact and run with it, and as a result they slipped in a huge amount of interesting details and subtle gags in the background of the office's set design. For instance, the left-hand side of the reception desk hangs a framed 1 million trees cut award from the Rainforest Harvesters Association, presumably for the sheer amount of business that they've actually brought to the company. It is incredibly difficult to read, but the accompanying text apparently reads out, quote, "Whereas the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company has demonstrated excellence in the total disregard of the environment in its utilization of the vast resources of rainforests across the globe, the association has awarded them this citation." So yeah, pretty passive-aggressive. Number 2. Jim has a doll of Roy hanging in his house. In season 2's email surveillance, Jim invites all of his co-workers, except Michael, along to his house so they and the audience can get a look around his humble abode. And in one memorable scene, Jim actually stumbles across Pam in his bedroom. And when we cut back to Jim in this scene, you can notice on the right of him there's a notice board, oi oi, and there's also a little figure of a warehouse worker hanging by a string. Now, it doesn't take too much to figure out that this is probably a little effigy of Pam's at the time fiance Roy, who Jim, let's put it mildly, doesn't really like all that much. Thankfully, viewers weren't the only ones not to notice, as Pam also doesn't realize that she's standing mere feet away from a dying effigy of her fiancé. Yeah, I don't think the Jim and Pam romance would have been so sweet had she known, to be honest. If nothing else, it adds a funny little wrinkle to early Jim's dislike for Roy, which is apparently way more intense than any of us realized. Number 1, the Schrute Farms US flag only has 15 stars because it's 200 years old. In the few episodes where we do get to visit Schrute Farms, you probably clicked that Dwight actually has an American flag right on his front porch. However, you probably didn't notice that the flag only has 15 stars on it as opposed to the regular 50, which represent every state. The 15-star flag was used between May 1st, 1795 and April 12th, 1818 to represent the 13 colonies and the subsequent admissions of Vermont and Kentucky to the Union. The implication is, of course, that Schrute Farms was founded in between those two dates, which was later confirmed to actually be 1812. And after that, Schrute proudly never bothered to update the flag at all. So, though the series has periodically jumped into the history of Schrute Farms, there is one little detail right there that you probably didn't even notice. So, that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. How many of these did you actually notice while you were watching the show, and how many are new to you? Also, if you've got any more, I would like to know, because I love doing these lists and I find them so fascinating that apparently I just miss everything when I watch shows, you know? I'm sorry. While you're down there as well, could you please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.